good doctor?
It used to be. I won an award once from the mayor. Had an expensive frame.
They're all gonna die.
The day I get out of prison, my own brother picks me up in a police car.
It's the Al Travis Show, and we're lucky to have with us Senator Julia Coleman. Senator, how are you today?
Hey, I'm doing very good, Al. It's great to be back.
I love having you on. A good Mother's Day?
Well, mine are a little bit too young to understand the concept, but, you know, they did their best, those three little rascals.
Okay, good for you. Let's talk a little bit about work before it gets out of hand here. I've got a question. You're on the Education Policy Committee. The story at the end of last week was 84.2% of kids graduated high school in the state of Minnesota. Governor was showcasing it in every category that we keep track of: social, racial, all categories. Everything was up. This was as good a story as you can tell. And I don't want to poo-poo a good story, but this is the same group of kids that a year ago in 11th grade, according to the study, couldn't do math or reading at grade level, 50% of them. How did you guys throw some extra cash in for summer school to catch everybody up? How did that even happen, that 84% of them graduated and can't do the program?
Well, it's like celebrating somebody winning a race, but you've made it so that the goalpost is quite far behind, or the finish line is quite far behind. So they may have done it in record time, but we've changed the standards for them. And so we're putting children out into the workforce or sending them off to try to get into universities. And we're touting these great graduation rates, but at the same time, our test scores and our data are showing that they're not prepared for that. I can't imagine a time when I graduated high school where children were not reading at grade level that they would be eligible for graduation. And now we're just setting these kids up for failure. And it's the most heartbreaking thing I've seen in the legislature, because they deserve so much better than that.
Who do we blame? And I want to blame. Why not make it 100%? If you sit yourself here for 12 years, you get the certificate, said you sat here for 12 years, stop worrying about tests because we're not worrying about it anyway. Is this our teaching governor? He's the teacher. He was going to be here and help these kids. Nothing has happened in schools except that education level has gone down. And I don't know if I'm blaming him, because I'm now thinking it's superintendents. If I was a superintendent of any school district and you walk across that stage and I'm going to hand you a diploma, I'm shaking your hand knowing that you are prepared to go out there and do some reading, be able to do a little math in your head. You know what I'm saying? Is it the superintendents who aren't holding that standard up, saying, you go, I just throw Rochester Senior as a superintendent, you're going to have an education before you leave here. If you didn't get it, summer school's open to you. I'll take care of you. Who's to blame? Parents? Why not? Why don't you keep up?
I think it's just a systemic failure all around. I mean, we definitely have seen the least amount of parental involvement in our students than we've seen in a very, very long time. There was the lockdowns and COVID that put our students behind, that we never put any system in place to catch them up. No system to say there was learning loss. Let's extend school, a couple weeks on your end and catch you up, or do some sort of tutor program. Nothing like that. We have seen, I think I've told you before, this little map. Here's the Senate building. I could throw a rock at Education Minnesota, which claims it wants to fight for teachers. Yet when we had a surplus, they didn't speak up once, trying to make sure our teachers had workable pensions. So we're not being able to recruit the best and the brightest. I have teachers who say, I'm telling my son who's studying to become a teacher, don't come to Minnesota. Our pension and retirement system is broken. So our good teachers are going to other states. It's blame on both sides of the aisle, because we've had governors on both sides not fund enough in education. And then certainly there's a lack of accountability. So it's just a snowball effect. And now we're seeing who's bearing the brunt of those costs. And it's one, our students, and two, our future workforce.
Let me ask you this, maybe you know, maybe you don't. Is either one of the two bills for teacher retirement, you bring it out, Truth and Advertising, my wife is actually involved in this as far as it would affect us. I think the Democrats wanted to be retirement at 60 would be with 30 years, and I think the Republicans wanted 62. I don't know if I might have those backwards. Is any of that going to be happening? For folks who don't know, the Rule of 90 was slashed in 89, and it was unsustainable. It was. But instead of phasing it out there were teachers, i.e., my wife, who literally went through school, got hired, and said, "Okay, now that retirement plan you're looking for is gone." The guy that she got hired with, long story, he retired at 57. My wife now has to go to 67 for full retirement. So I'm very interested in if there's going to be a fix here. Is there? Is it in anything that anyone was talking about with his budget?
Certainly, there is. So I've been working with Representatives Andrew Myers and Danny Nadeau, and what we're looking at is if you are able to cap the free school lunch program for people that are 500% below the federal poverty level. So that's, I would say, for a family of four, we're talking like $160,000
Mm-hmm.
would no longer be eligible. And so that's pretty reasonable. I would say most Americans in Minnesota would say that's reasonable. That's able to put $435 million back into our system that we could put into teacher pensions or into classrooms or what have you. And so,
Oh, but Senator, please, I'm sorry. They are going to beat you with the ugly stick on that. You took food away from children. Yes, their parents can afford it, but you get my point. They love the idea. Minnesota, you come to school, you get breakfast, you get lunch. We're going to do a cocktail hour afterwards. If you get to a certain age, I know at some point, they're going to beat you up if you touch that. Am I lying? You're going to be the one who took away breakfast for little kids.
they have already tried some attack ads, which is challenging because I am and I have publicly been someone that believes if you're coming to public school, we should provide everything you need for public school. But then they spent us into oblivion, and all I have to do is point across the street and say there is a $750 million renovation for you guys going on across the street. If it was really that important to you, if pensions were really that important to you, if school lunches were really that important to you, I wouldn't be having to sit here and make these tough cuts and decisions watching this palace get erected next door.
How much do you follow the education committee on the House side? You say those two fixes roughly in there? Is the House doing the same thing? Is it something a teacher listening to this program could think they're going to fix, or are they? Where are we at?
If I knew what was going on in the House side, I would be a millionaire in bets that are going on in the Capitol right now. In the Senate, we're just kind of waiting to see what the House does. Anybody, I think this is going to roll into a future topic for you, but you're kind of watching the light leave people's eyes one by one as they're realizing a special is right around the corner.
Yeah, but I think the special will be interesting this time. We're used to it. I don't know when the last time we didn't go into a special session, or we had it right at midnight on time. No one knows what the bill. Everybody's upset. I don't think Minnesotans will care if you guys go along. I know you guys do. It'd be nice to get back to home. But my point is, at some point, especially when you get to June 30th, if the state shuts down, if services start going away, people are going to yell and scream. And I'm sorry to say this, major publications, the major news outlets are going to hang this on the Republicans. It's just the way they do it. Will the Republicans, you think the Republicans in the House will stand firm with the no new taxes and the rest? Who's gonna flinch first when the bad press starts?
I think House Republicans have somewhat of an advantage here because House Democrats refuse to show up to work for the first several weeks. And so when we are at crunch time, it's because you didn't allow us to get our jobs done for the first several weeks, and now we're paying the price of that. Here's why I know Minnesotans are used to special sessions. I don't like them because we have something called conference committee where you hash out the differences and there can be public testimony and people can say what's working, what's not. That all then goes behind closed doors. And then we just make agreements behind closed doors and come back and push yes or no on our desk buttons. And the public's input is then just gone. And so I would hope that we can get our work done. But when you're just talking about all the bills we have left to do, there's just no way.
Yeah. Well, you're the assistant minority leader, so you're up there with the big muckety mucks. We don't have, as I understand it, maybe we'll get them today. I don't know. You have the goals aren't set between the House, the Senate, and the governors yet. We don't have the final targets. Yeah. How can you be 6 days away from end of session and we don't start with the first off? Let's make it $60 billion. I just throw a number, 60 billion, 70, whatever the number is, and then each side can work from there. How are we? It seems backwards to me. We're not there.
We're not there, and I can tell you if you have time, the kind of the issue.
Yeah.
House Democrats are digging their heels in. From a leadership perspective, what we are hearing is the unemployment insurance for hourly school workers is something they've drawn as a line in the sand, as well as the free health care for illegal immigrants. Those are the two things House Democrats are saying we are not bending on this whatsoever. And House Republicans are saying, well, so be it, but we're not funding this. And so those are kind of the two sticking points I'm seeing. I'm sure there's a whole iceberg underneath that. But those are the big ones that are kind of dragging things out right now.
Well, let's bust those down in just 2 minutes. I want to talk about what that means, and can you win the PR war if you're standing up for a budget that could fold, if you will, if you're not giving illegal aliens Minnesota care for free. We'll talk about it after this.
It's your turn to host a game. Grandpa's Barbecue suggests you try something different. Put out the perfect barbecue flavor of Grandpa's Barbecue. Add it to your ribs, dip the meatballs, or drench your wings in the original flavor of Grandpa's Barbecue. It isn't too hot or spicy, fruity or smoky or whatever. Grandpa's Barbecue. Available in select stores and online at grandpasbarbecueshop.com.
There are many ways to explore Alexandria. Some like to experience the outdoors and all the fun winter in Minnesota can provide. Pick your favorite way to get in touch with nature. Others like to explore downtown in the warm comfort of a boutique or gathered around a table with friends. You can do all of that or relax and do nothing at all. Come explore Alexandria. Start planning at explorealex.com.
The Al Travis Show, the last place you can go and hear all sides. Respectful, thoughtful, and grateful.
And we've got our Senator Julia Coleman on the program with us. Senator, I really lighten things down to little glimpses because I'm not a smart man. But let's just do this. The left hates the fact that Donald Trump wants to close down the the Department of Education. It's a horrible, terrible thing. Department of Education, as it sits there, puts out this thing about DEI. You can't have that anymore. And the Minnesota Department of Education says, the heck with you, we're going to do it anyway, at the risk of losing, I think it was $400 million in funding. So we want the Department of Education, unless they tell us something we don't like, then we don't want to listen to them. It even costs us $400 million. On the same line with this Medicare, Minnesota Care for illegals. Legal aliens, Minnesota Care, they give it to them. 5,000 people, what we're guessing. 17,000 so far have signed up. Guess what? People sign up if it's for free. Pretty easy gig. But now the U.S. House has said if you're giving care to illegal immigrants, you face going from 90% payoff by the federal government for Medicaid to 80%, another $325 million. I just found you $750 million. If we just follow the rules as is, you take the $600K the Minnesota Care is costing us. I got to do $1 billion saved out of the $6 billion you got to do in the next 6 years. Will the left stand their ground? You say draw a line in the sand for that kind of money, just not to follow the rules, like for illegals?
I think that House Democrats are being put in a really tough position because when I talk about this issue, say I do a little social media post and say, hey, we're trying to get our budget together, and they're digging their heels in on healthcare for illegals, that video blows up. And then I'm hearing as well in the House that they're hearing about that. I mean, that's blowing up their phone lines, it's blowing up their inboxes. And if we go to a special session, I mean, I have to imagine groups like Jim Schultz's group or others are going to be blasting vulnerable House Democrats in the suburbs and in St. Cloud and where have you, with advertisements saying, call their office now, tell them, prioritize Minnesotans. I mean, if this is what they're going to dig in their heels on, this is what's going to make their, next several weeks a nightmare.
Will it make a difference? I mean, we're talking 34-33 in the Senate. Can you bring one over? Is there a moderate enough senator say, I can't fight this fight? You're right. I mean, I don't know, put it. It just seems so weird to me. You don't have the money. Shut down the entire state so illegal immigrants can have medical care for free. That's where we're going with this. All of us will suffer. There's got to be. And on the House side, it's 67-67. You only need one. And these seem kind of like 80-20 issues, are they not? Who polls this? It's got to be 80-20.
I haven't seen a poll. I just see what I hear when I go to the grocery store and all of that fun stuff. And over the last 2 years, I was amazed at Democrats' ability to remain in lockstep and row the boat as one unit. We are starting to see some cracks in the foundation, whether it's a tough amendment or they realize they don't have the votes for something, and in the last minute, it gets pulled off the agenda for the day. We are starting to see some cracks in that foundation, which gives me hope that we're going to start to see some compromise on these issues.
All right. But again, we don't even have the same budget numbers currently. We're going to blow past Monday, right? I mean, there's just no way you could even possibly get the hearings and everything else, can you, by Monday to be done? So we're going special session. Will it get done before June 30th? Your opinion?
That's the strong possibility. I think that the public pressure is going to mount. We're going to start to see independent expenditure groups come out and start trying to pressure people one way or another. We're going to see people knocking on doors. I mean, we're going to see the outside groups start to get heavily involved in some of these vulnerable seats. And so from a leadership perspective, again, I don't like it because a lot of what we're going to be doing is behind closed doors. But I'm hopeful that it's not going to end up like it did last year in one big giant bill that we passed at the last minute. I don't see House Republicans supporting that. But that's the only way I see it getting done on time. But June 30th is not out of the realm of possibilities.
All right. Let me ask you this, just inside baseball, because I'm very curious. So as evidently in the last 2 days, Sunday and Monday, the leadership has been together for about 13 hours. And someone is describing carrying big 3-ring binders of information, yada, yada. If you can't sit across from somebody in 13 hours and at least find where the strongholds are, whatever it is, what makes you think the next 13 hours will be different? You know what I'm saying? At some point, you're just staring at each other in the face, right? I mean, is there enough pieces on the game board to make this work?
So I've been in negotiations like that. It's not two people sitting across the table for 13 hours. Often what happens, so when we ended up with a tied Senate, I think the first day was about 14, 16 hours of negotiations, what that was going to look like. Often it's a conversation of here's what I want, here's what you want. We break for several hours. We come back. Here are my thoughts on those. Here are your thoughts on this. What are you willing to bend on? We break and come back and we talk. And so it's a very slow moving process. So I would imagine for those 13 hours, maybe 3 of them were actually face-to-face talking.
All right. But by that point, I would presume each side has the bullet point list. You mentioned the Minnesota Care for All. You mentioned that they're not going to get rid of the unemployment insurance for part-time people. That's there too. I presume the Republicans were not raising taxes, so now figure it out. I mean, so we have one, they've got 2, and then now it's what, a standoff?
And I'm sure within each bill, there are multiple little things that they're trying to talk about. And because if I have a feeling if we're going to pass anything, we're not going to see it be 130.
Achieving your financial goals requires individual planning and a comprehensive approach. At Midwest Money Management, our mission is to provide you with the knowledge, tools, and confidence to feel comfortable.
I hit the wrong button. When we come out, can you wrap up in a minute?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'll apologize for that. That was on me.
Member FINRA and SIPC. Advisory services offered through JW Cole Advisors Inc., Midwest Money Management, and JW Cole Financial Inc. and JW Cole Advisors Inc. are unaffiliated entities.
You know that car sound that sounds like a cricket playing a banjo? Jay's can fix that. You know when you step on the brakes and your car sounds like a pair of tennis shoes in the dryer? Paul is a guy who specializes in that. And you know that sound that never happens when the mechanic's around? Paul took a whole course on that. If you own a car, you need to know Paul. Paul owns Jay's Auto Shop, 202 North Main Street, Blue Earth, 525-1052, 525-1052. I apologize to the senator about that. A happy finger, and I jumped right to the break. I'm sorry. Can you finish your thought? How we go about doing this?
Yeah, absolutely. At the end of the day, they're going to have to go bill by bill, line by line, and hash out the differences. So I don't envy, Speaker Smith and Hortman and the governor and Leader Murphy right now. It's going to be a really bummer summer for them is the only way I can put that.
Wow.
But I hope that the people of Minnesota kind of pay attention to the news, where updates are in negotiations, and please reach out to your elected officials and let them know what your priorities are, because it is the squeaky wheels that get the oil down at the legislature.
Well, you say keep an eye on the news. I'm more concerned on how they all frame this. How we're going to get it framed to the people out in the public, whether when we're in overtime and that sort of thing, that you guys will get the credit you deserve. All right, I thank you. I apologize for making you stick through that extra break. It's Senator Julia Coleman on the Al Travis Show. We appreciate her taking time, especially this week when they've got just 6 days to get everything done. That's going to do it for this edition of the Al Travis Show.